Hi, One Goal community. It's Elaine Boyd, Pelotonia's Event and Volunteer Operations Coordinator. Since 2008, Pelotonia has raised over $236 million for innovative cancer research. And thanks to our partners, 100% of those funds have gone directly to research at the James at Ohio State. Together, we will see an end to cancer. To get involved in our One Goal, visit pelotonia.org. That's pelotonia.org, or click on the link in the episode notes.
This podcast is powered by Pelotonia. To learn more about our Goal 10 cancer, visit pelotonia.org or see the link in the show notes.
This podcast is fun. This is one of my favorite parts of my role. These stories are so unique, are so special. This is a keepsake. What our team is working on right now, sort of new things we're going to launch in 2022. I have never been as excited as I am right now. Welcome to One Goal, a storytelling podcast from Pelotonia. We're a passionate community dedicated to funding innovative cancer research. I'm your host and president of Pelotonia, Joe Apgar. Your journey with us to the finish line begins now. Pelotonia is powered by an unstoppable community, and it's through research we will see an end to cancer. We want to thank our major funding partners for making all of this possible. The American Electric Power Foundation, Huntington, the L Brands Foundation, and Peggy and Richard Santulli. When you're done experiencing this episode, we'd be honored if you could leave a review or share it with family and friends. This really helps extend the impact of this series and helps further our one goal. And now, on to the episode. Welcome to the final episode of Season 3 of our One Goal podcast at Pelotonia. I am the president of Pelotonia, Joe Apgar, and I am here with our podcast producer, Vince Tornero. Vince, welcome.
Joe, it is great to be here on this podcast, man.
So we've got something pretty special lined up for today, for this last episode. So what is it? What do we got?
So what we're going to do is actually go through a review of Season 3. And, you know, there may be some folks who see, you know, all like 14, 15 episodes in a season, and it's a little intimidating. So this is kind of like the Reader's Digest version of One Goal Season 3.
Spark Notes, is that
yes.
what
yes.
from the college and high school days?
That
Spark
helped
Notes.
me pass many a classes. So yeah, what we're going to do is go through 7 moments. This is not like I don't want to think this is like a greatest hits. This is just moments of impact that we pulled from this season. And I think that this is a great cramming for the test, the Sparks Notes, like you said, to learn more about the community and to have a desire to want to get involved. Because when you hear these things and you hear the dedication that folks have to this cause and this goal, how could you not want to be part of that?
I love it. So let's dive into the first one. What's on deck first?
Okay, so episode 1 of Season 3 was with Alec Temple, and Alec was married to Hallie, and I think it'd be important for you to explain who Hallie was to the community. Yeah,
so Hallie Hirschberger was one of our interns several years ago, and had been a pediatric cancer survivor, but had a really long journey and history with cancer and recurrence. And I've probably never met anyone with as positive of an attitude than Hallie. And she was sort of just one of those people that walked in the room and lit it up. And, obviously having the opportunity to sit down with Alec, her husband, and after her passing, was a really emotional episode and really the perfect way to kick off Season 3.
So here is a clip from the episode's strongest person in the room. This is Alec describing the moment when he drove to the hospital to see Hallie.
You know, get in the car, and probably the fastest I've ever driven in my life from, Upper Arlington all the way up to the Cleveland Clinic. And then when I get there, her dad was the one to come down to greet me. I walked in. Her family was completely surrounding her in the ICU room. And the only dry face in that room was hers. Everybody else, obviously, in that situation, you knew they were upset. But she was there in her bed. Just being as she would for for her whole life was being the strongest person in the room. When everybody left was when she finally was able to pull that wall down and we could be real with each other. As soon as people were back in, it was tears off of her face. What do we need to do, doctor? It was just an unyielding perseverance.
Yeah, so that got some tears in my eyes. That was after Hallie had gotten some more bad news, and this is 10, 12 years in her cancer journey, and just sort of recurrence after recurrence of cancer. And it's one of those things, a lot of people that have gone through a cancer journey have heard, you have cancer once, or maybe twice. And they've gotten bad news a couple times, but I have never met anyone who had received as much bad news as Hallie, and it never fazed her. It gives you perspective. And I feel like I've got a unique perspective on life going through my own cancer journey. But when I look at someone like Hallie and what she went through, it's just a whole different level. And I think for Alec to be such a strong partner along her journey, and Alec is an amazing human being himself. And I just think about how special both of them are, how special they were together.
I just think too, when you think about that, you see, so much in the news about like negativity and like how, this is happening, that's happening. And yes, there's a lot of bad things floating around, but it's amazing when you put somebody like Alec and Hallie into a different situation, you just see a blossoming of a beautiful part of humanity that I think can and does exist in so many of us. Yeah.
And I think the special thing for Hallie and with Alec and really Hallie's entire family, this is just the beginning of Hallie's legacy.
Oh, yeah.
They're starting a foundation called Share Your Story. Hallie's story is going to live on for a really long time, and it's going to impact tons and tons of people in a really positive way. And I think, what an amazing legacy to leave on this earth.
Absolutely. So the next clip that we're going to talk about is season 3, episode 2. So following the episode with Alec and Hallie, which we just talked about, Ethan Zahn, famous for his time on Survivor. How did he get connected to the community?
He had known Doug for a long time. So Ethan was a former professional soccer player. Doug was a big soccer player at Brown, and as part of his youth, and they both went through similar cancer experiences, and so they had known each other since back in the Livestrong days, but had reconnected. And Ethan came in and just loved everything about Pelotonia, and safe to say we loved everything about him too.
So this was actually a question that came towards the end of the interview with Ethan Zahn, and the question was, what did he talk about with his dad when he had cancer? Because Ethan's first introduction to cancer was through his father's experience. And so that question, I think, really kind of brought forth a beautiful moment that I'm happy to say was in the podcast.
Well, to be honest, I remember what I didn't talk to my dad about. It's going to sound weird, but as like a 14-year-old boy, like I don't ever remember like saying, I love you to my dad. Maybe I said it in passing, or it was at a birthday, I love you, Dad. But like I never like had the conversation to let him know, like, listen, I love you. You're my father, and thank you for coming to my soccer games and driving me around and just being the best father ever. I never had that opportunity, and I missed that chance. And so that stuck with me for my whole life. Probably some of the reasons for my issues in life anyway. But that for me, just I tell people things now. Like I am fairly open book with a lot of people, because I feel like nothing is more empowering than the truth.
What's interesting about that is, once you get to know Ethan, he is an open book. And at first you're like, wow, like this guy's so interesting. He's kind of mysterious. He lives in the woods, up in New Hampshire, and he was on Survivor and he won. And, he then went through his own cancer experience. So he had this experience of losing his father, but then he goes through his own cancer experience. And I think anybody that's been sort of in the throes of that, you get a really clear look at like oh man, this could be it. This could be the end of me. I think that's the kind of stuff that races through your head, is like, if you left today, would you be happy with how you lived?
Yeah, I think moments like that speak to me, because my dad is in his mid-70s, and it just makes you realize the most important thing that we have is time.
Yeah. And you know, one of the things I've learned from Ethan is like simplicity of life. Very distinct beauty in simplicity in life. And that's a lot of what I think about is, you know, from being a dad, and obviously a relatively new dad. My daughter's almost 3. It's like, what are the little moments that you're enjoying and being present for? And like, that's the stuff you remember at the end of the day. You know, like Ethan said, like his dad's going to the soccer games. Like that's what people remember, right? Is you showed up at the soccer game, not, you know, some award you won or something else. And so I think it's a really powerful sentiment.
So tell me about Mike Perry. This guy is a legend for sure.
So Mike Perry is one of the longest tenured Pelotonia riders, supporters, advocates, all around amazing human being. It's an open invitation to join Mike on a ride. And, you know, I bet you thousands of people in our community have ridden with Mike over the years. And he's a special, one-of-a-kind human being. We recently, this year, we launched our first ever like real Pelotonia awards. And we actually awarded Mike the Pelotonia Legacy Award. He is a shining example of what an amazing advocate and community member looks like.
Let's hear a clip from that episode that Mike Perry was on. This is the episode titled Blind Confidence, Season 3, Episode 4. And this was a great moment, Joe, that stuck with me.
This was my second time to Athens. And we're at the Logan rest stop, so we're 70 miles in. And I see a lady all scraped up and bandaged up. And I approached her. I said, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" "Oh, I had a spill. Is it bad?" "Yeah, I'm pretty tore up." And I looked at her. I said, "Man, and we're just 30 miles from the end. I said to her, it's a shame your day has to end this way." And she says to me with a little grin, she says, "Oh, I'm not stopping. I'm going on." And I high-fived her. I looked at her. I said, "You really get what this is all about, don't you?" Did not say a word. She turns around, makes sure I see her Survivor jersey, and walks away.
Yeah, that's a pretty incredible story. And that was, he was referencing the old route down to Ohio University in Athens there. It's fascinating. So one, I, you know, obviously want to say we try to take care of people that fall as much as we possibly can. We've got a lot of medical volunteers and all that stuff, but that is probably like the spirit of Pelotonia wrapped up. And I think, you know, you listen to that clip and, you know, Mike says, "Oh, you know, you really get what this is about." And that's all before she turned around and showed her Survivor jersey. And the pride that goes along with wearing a Survivor jersey in Pelotonia is pretty amazing. I know just from talking to Mike, that is one of many, many moments like that really embodies the spirit of Pelotonia.
Yeah, it's sweet. It's sweet. Somebody else that was involved with the community who is certainly a sweet and empowering, inspiring, motivating individual was Wendy Chioji. She was quite a special person to a lot of people.
Wendy was a news reporter for a long time. She was high energy. She was an athlete. You met her, and the first time I met her, I thought two things. And I didn't really know a lot about her when I met her. I was sort of, you know, blindly introduced to her. And wow, she has an amazing amount of energy. And this woman has a zest for life and experience that, like, if you could bottle up and sell it, you would be worth $1 trillion. And she always made you feel like you'd been friends forever. Like the second time I sat down with her, I felt like I had known her forever. So there's a beautiful thing about just having the opportunity to talk with her, to learn from her, and to share some experiences with her.
This was in an interview that she did, and we were able to pull a wide variety of clips together so folks could really get an active feel for Wendy in this episode. So here's a clip from that episode.
I've never been afraid. I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of pain. I'm not afraid of feeling badly. I don't like it, but I'm not afraid of it. So I think that fear never has weighed in as part of the equation. Just makes me more stubborn, and I'm that. Gosh, I hope that we're talking cures for cancer in 10 years if everybody works together. So the more that we can collaborate and work together and work toward the same goal and not do duplicate research and waste money that way, the quicker we're going to come up to that goal. And I totally think it's reachable.
Yeah, so she was extremely special, and she came up to ride in the ride several times, and ultimately passed away after a long battle with cancer. She, one of the coolest things was she got to see us announce the immunotherapy. Pelotonia Institute for Immunotherapy, and she was trying different immunotherapies, and she believed in research, and she believed in pushing forward science. And you talk about someone that in a lot of ways recognized she might not have had a lot of time left, but had so much hope for the future and for other people, and recognized that her battle could inspire people, could help people. And it's Pelotonia is full of people like Wendy, and I think that's one of the most special parts about our community. I remember one of the things after I had a few conversations with her and got to know her pretty well was like, holy cow, like she's done a lot of cool things. Yeah. Right. And so, and then you sort of learn more about her and having conversations with Doug. And it's like, her thing was to just say yes to stuff. Like if something was interesting, she was saying yes to it. And it wasn't, I got to think about it. I'm going to noodle on it forever. And, him and Ha, it's like, you got one chance at life, and like, just say yes to something that might be really fun, might be a little scary. And there's a lesson there, right? She did not live as long as a lot of other people in her life will ultimately live, but she lived while she was here. And I think that's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. Another pretty amazing story is season 3, episode 7. This was Abigail's radiation ride, kind of a social media star of sorts for the community.
Yeah, I just got a chance to talk to her during the last week, and someone similar age as me, young, goes through a really traumatic and cancer experience. But one of the things that right off the bat with Abigail is one, she's going to put up a fight, and two, she is surrounded by people that love her. And that sort of just radiates from her. And when you hear her talk about her cancer experience, it is not just her cancer experience. Like, it's a cancer experience of sort of everyone around her. And she is incredibly special.
Here is a clip from that episode, Abigail's radiation ride. And the reason why we titled it that is because that was the hashtag she used when sharing her journey on social media. So this is season 3, episode 7. And here is the clip.
I have images of Mark and moments that we have, flashing through my mind. I have my 2 stepkids, and I have memories with them, and there's so much more I want to do in the future. I think about my mom. I think about my 3 sisters, my dad. I mean, it was just almost like a collection of photos as my body is completely rigid and still in bed, that I have these images that are just passing through my mind rapidly. And at this point, I'm honestly wondering, am I quite possibly having a psychotic break right now? Has the stress peaked? Yeah. I mean, I honestly couldn't reach for the phone. I couldn't pick it up. At some point, tears are running down my face, but I'm not moving. I'm not sobbing. This isn't like a release. It was just, I was stuck in a state of fear. Yeah. I mean, and the only thing that I could think of was that I was going to die. Yeah. For the first time in my life, I faced my own mortality head on, and I just had to see it through.
I think it's incredible that when folks come on this podcast, Joe, that people will be so open and willing to share some of those most private moments on this podcast, which I think what makes this so powerful.
Yeah. And, one of the things I know we talked about, I've never met, somebody that's been through a cancer experience that didn't remember in detail, like the worst of it, the worst night, the worst morning, the worst whatever, the worst part of treatment. And, that was her describing this scene that, she was like quarantined upstairs because it's during COVID. So she's going through all that literally by herself. It's amazing reflection when people can share their stories like that and freely and openly. And like, she's on the other side of that now. And it's like, how do you look back on that experience? How do you remember that experience for the rest of your life? And I think that's just part of what builds the perspective that you can have when you're a survivor.
Season 3, episode 8. Episode titled "Opportunities for Good," an interview that you did with a guy that the community that we all know and love, Mr. Doug Ullman. So I was going to say, tell us about this guy, but what don't people know about Doug Ullman? That's the better question.
What don't people know about him? He's a standing desk kind of guy when we're in the office. He loves tortilla chips, does not drink coffee.
He doesn't drink coffee?
No, I don't know how he doesn't drink coffee. He doesn't drink coffee. One time accidentally drank tea that had caffeine in it, and our entire team was worried about him. So, he was going off the walls, but,
oh man,
he's a fascinating human being. He's an amazing mentor, leader, someone I'm really proud to call a friend. And, we're happy to have him sort of leading us into the future.
This is towards the end of the episode, season 3, episode 8 of One Goal, where Doug talks about his hope for the future and the organization too.
Organizationally, what I would say is, this is our 13th year. And so in the scheme of growth, we're still pretty young. And yet we've had tremendous growth, and we've gone through some challenges, bumps in the road, pandemic and non-pandemic related. And we've made it through with unlimited opportunity in front of us, and now an incredible team and infrastructure to go seize these opportunities. We have unlimited growth potential. That's why I'm excited, because we now have the right goals for our 5-year sort of horizon. We've got the right team, and now it's on us to execute. And so who wouldn't want that chance? I think personally, it is hard. I mean, I think about it a lot. People that are no longer here, and I feel in some ways a sense of responsibility to keep going. And I also feel like we have to constantly remember how fortunate we are to be here with the opportunity to literally save and change people's lives. Pelotonia is about the community and the stories and the platform that they have developed, and we're just stewards in some ways. And so I'm continually inspired by your leadership and also by the community at large, and that's what's going to fuel us towards our audacious goals.
Yeah, so he said something sort of really interesting there that I think stuck with a lot of people, but he said we're just stewards sort of the organization. And one of the things he and I talk about a lot and we share with our team and have shared with people in the community is like, none of us feel like Pelotonia is ours. We are very much just fortunate to be able to call Pelotonia our work and keep the organization growing and alive. It is the community's organization. It is the organization of everyone that's ever participated.
That's sweet.
And we're leading it right now. And there's a lot of news that can come your way that could get you really down. The opposite of that is getting to see what's going on in the world of research and how far we're moving the needle and how fast we're moving. My favorite thing to do is talk to the fellows, the Pelotonia fellows, often undergraduate or graduate students that receive funding to pursue some, crazy piece of research or idea. Like, that's the future, right? I mean, what greater work can you have than to do that?
So the episode that I really like putting together is my producer and I went out and we really had the opportunity to see the community come together, which of course, it's Ride Weekend.
Yeah, it's chaos, complete chaos. And you and your squad are out there and, grabbing people and interviewing them, and you get them in the throes of the moment of like victory and crossing the finish line. And it's pretty special.
This is the episode 1 Mile Closer. That was season 3, episode 10 of the Pelotonia One Goal podcast.
My name is Teresa Reeves, and I've been biking for about 4 years. I've always supported other riders, but because of the fee, I haven't been able to really participate the fundraising. But this year, a benefactor reached out and said they wanted to increase diversity in Pelotonia. And I bike with a group called Black Girls Do Bike in Columbus. It is a national organization. And so the benefactor said they would cover part of our costs if we participated. So I decided this was perfect. Cancer touches everybody's lives. As a teacher, I once had a student in my classroom that was diagnosed with cancer, and I remember just going to Children's Hospital and seeing him. He is a survivor, so that is great, but I remember looking at this little 6-year-old and thinking, we got to find a cure for this. We have to do it. This is such a powerful and meaningful mission to be a part of, and I think the experience is wonderful. I just hope that Pelotonia helps to get us one step closer to ending it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So she mentioned she was part of a group called Black Girls Do Bike, which is a new Peloton this year, and amazing group of women, and really role models for the rest of the community. And so it's fun to hear about her experience. And what's sort of sticks out to me is I always say everybody's got a story, right? Like everybody has a connection to cancer. I have never met a single person that didn't have a connection to cancer. And, having a 6-year-old student diagnosed and that now calls themselves a survivor, it's every sort of vantage point of a cancer journey exists. And that's bringing me back memories of just hearing the cowbells in the background and people cheering. And I can't wait to get to ride weekend 2022.
So folks want to submit some stuff for season 4. How can they do that? How do they reach out? Social media? What's
reach out anyway. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, our emails, pelotonia@pelotonia.org. You can email me, japgar@pelotonia.org. Find your way into the universe of our inbox, and we want to hear what you want to hear. So would love to be on the intake of some of those ideas.
And let me just say, personally, it is a privilege to do this for the community. To have the ability to do this means so much. So when I think about sitting down, listening to the audio, capturing these stories, it is a wonderful responsibility.
I think these stories are so unique, are so special, and one of the things, and you always hear me sort of share it with our guests, before we kick off the podcast, like this is a keepsake. And I think you've done a fantastic job, you and your team, at putting together something that is a keepsake for these people. And I think that's really special. And then just the selflessness of the community. And I think one of the things I think about a lot is, obviously I have my own personal cancer experience. My sister has also had cancer. And so a lot of times I try to view things through the vantage point of my parents and caretakers. And people that haven't had cancer themselves, but have been so adjacent to it that it impacts their lives just as much. And if you want to meet a selfless person that will do anything for anyone, go find the spouse, the loved one, the best friend, the son, the daughter, the parent of someone going through cancer. Those are some of the real heroes in our community and in this world. And shout out to really anyone that is supporting anyone going through their own cancer journey. But to me, that's the embodiment of the Pelotonia spirit. So, this podcast is fun. This is one of my favorite parts of my role, really, is just getting to dive really deep on some of these stories with people and to meet community members in a way that, you never would.
What I love about doing this podcast so much is the fact that this takes an element of the community and says, we're preserving this. And to have an opportunity to be a part of that, there's no word that describes that level of humility to have the honor of doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, this is a great way to wrap up season 3, and we'll be back next year with more podcasts and more stories for sure. And I think, when I think about what our team is working on right now, sort of in preparation and sort of new things we're going to launch in 2022, I have never been as excited as I am right now about the upcoming year. I think 2022 is going to be an absolutely magical year. I think it's going to be full of surprises for people. I think what we're really focused on is taking another 1 or 2 or 3 steps into the storytelling and the authenticity that the Pelotonia community is. And I think people are going to really see it. I think they're going to feel it. I think everything about 2022 is going to be exceptional and fun. And I'm looking forward to helping make it happen. This has been One Goal, a storytelling podcast from Pelotonia. I'm your host, cancer survivor, and president of Pelotonia, Joe Apgar. Interview and production scheduling by our marketing and communications team, Gabby Blauert, John Tolbert, and Alita Smith. One Goal is carefully crafted and produced at the studios of Westler Media. Mastering by Joey Gerwin at Orange Judio. Special thank you to all of our guests for being willing to share their inspiring journeys for this podcast. Also, please rate, review, and subscribe so you can get seasons 1 and 2 as well as future episodes. If you want to learn more about the Pelotonia community and how you can make an impact on cancer research, see the link in the show notes or visit pelotonia.org. That's pelotonia.org.